as you see, Fred Sternberg had all the beef VADA tested out there, so there'll be no issues for this steak lunch at the Palm. We're happy to be back here. This is actually a media lunch for Ring Magazine to recognize Triple G as their best pound-for-pound fighter in the world. Doug Fisher, the editor-in-chief of Ring Magazine, is here. He's going to make the official presentation of the belt. It's a very high honor. All the accomplishments that Triple G has made in the ring, all the belts that he's accumulated, this is a very high honor. It's a very high honor, being recognized as the #1 pound-for-pound fighter in the sport of boxing. So it just happened that we also signed the deal last week with Canelo Alvarez for the rematch, September 15th. It was so new that we don't even have a backdrop. So this is really for the specific purpose of the presentation of the Ring Magazine belt. And actually then we'll take questions and talk about the biggest fight in boxing between Triple G and Canelo Alvarez. So Doug, if you want to make the official presentation. We've been waiting a long time actually for that belt to come in, and I know Gennady was looking forward to adding that to his collection.
It's an impressive collection. Should I speak in one of the microphones?
Yeah. You can take the handheld.
Yeah, I mean, listen, I'm not going to take too much time here. I just want to give a little bit of history about the Ring Magazine's pound-for-pound belt. We haven't had one, we haven't awarded one in several decades. It was first awarded to Pernell Whitaker in 1993. Ironically, after Whitaker faced a Mexican star, and the outcome of that bout was a very controversial draw. But the editors of Ring Magazine and most of the public knew who really won that fight. And so the editors of the Ring Magazine decided to, just off the draw, elevate Pernell Whitaker, who was #2 pound for pound at the time. The great Julio Cesar Chavez was #1 pound for pound at the time. You were probably there. You were probably working some corners there. Yeah, but yeah, you were part of the, you were training some of the top pound for pound rated fighters at the time. A lot of interest in that showdown. And going into the fight, people said this is going to prove who's pound for pound #1. And despite the controversial draw, most people thought that Whitaker won. And so he was elevated to #1 pound for pound. And he was awarded the first Ring Magazine pound for pound championship belt. And he was even on the cover showing off the belt. So Gennady, your last fight was a draw, but most people know who won that fight. And even beyond weight classes, because that was looked at, and I think it was called supremacy, for middleweight supremacy. But I think beyond weight classes, you, Gennady, are the epitome of a champion. You conduct yourself as a champion. You live the life of a champion. You train like a champion. You want to fight the best, and you want to challenge yourself. And that's what real world champions do. So you have a very impressive title belt collection, but with or without the belts, the people recognize you as the best, as a champion. And that's really what pound for pound is. It's being the best regardless of weight class. But even when we talk about your weight class, you're doing some very special things. You're the longest reigning champion in boxing. I think you're the closest thing to Marvelous Marvin Hagler, where he just stuck his claim to be the king of the middleweight division and took on all comers. And even when he lost, controversial, people still recognize Marvin Hagler as the champ, even when he lost to my boyhood idol, Sugar Ray Leonard. But when I first met you, and I've written about this, it was in I think the spring or summer of 2011. And at the time, you were the WBA's interim champion. Am I right about that?
Yes.
He was preparing, and you sparred with Canelo Alvarez, he was preparing for a fight with Kasim Uma. Is that right?
Yes.
And that fight was the first time he was elevated from the interim champion to the WBA full status champion. And he hasn't lost since. And he's had a lot of fights. And he is approaching the all-time middleweight division record held by Bernard Hopkins.
He's tied.
Yeah.
He's tied.
So,
He's tied.
so now there's some people who dispute this, right? Because they say, well, he had the interim belt, and then it was just a regular WBA belt, and
Tied.
well, the WBA didn't recognize or didn't sanction the Kell Brook fight. And I say, regardless, if you're getting close to the all-time record, if you're getting close, even close to equaling a feat of an all-time great fighter, you're in greatness territory. So obviously, you're one of the best fighters today. And whether or not you agree if he has equaled Bernard Hopkins' divisional record, he surpassed Marvin Hagler's. Marvin Hagler defended the title 12 times. The great Carlos Monzon defended the title 14 times. So he's already surpassed those fighters. Last time I checked, they're enshrined in the International Boxing Hall of Fame. And they are considered all-time great middleweights. So this is the territory that Gennady Golovkin is now in. So it gives me great pleasure to shut up and to award this belt to Gennady Golovkin. Or maybe you can stand up and sport the hardware.
He'll come around, Doug.
Okay. All right. Here on this left plate here, it says pound for pound number 1 since September 2017.
It is.
So going on 1 year.
No.
You're the man.
Thank you so much. Dougie, Doug, get right here for ring. This way, Doug.
Can you turn this way? There's one here, this way.
The center.
Down here, go slow down.
Here.
You all right?
There we go.
Let's hold it across the table.
There we go.
Yeah. I like
Nice,
that.
better.
Yeah.
Everybody right here in the middle.
Right here. Your what?
Thank you very much.
That's a hard-earned honor to get the pound-for-pound recognition from Ring Magazine. We want to thank Doug. We want to thank you for coming out and making the presentation, and especially for the Ring Ratings Committee for bestowing that honor upon Triple G. With that, we can transition. I also want to recognize Pepe Suleiman, who's here representing the WBC. Who's he's a proud champion of the WBC. He's a proud champion of the WBA. Pepe, if you want to say a few words on behalf of the WBC, we'd be happy to put this next fight against Canelo Alvarez, the first rematch of Triple G's career, into perspective.
Thank you very much. I'm here on behalf of the World Boxing Council and the 166 affiliated countries to it, and Mauricio Suleiman. We are very, very happy that this fight finally got signed for. Mauricio says, and I agree 100% with him, and with everything that Doug said about Gennady. He's a gentleman. He's a true champion. And for the WBC Gennady, he is the captain of the WBC champions. So he has a very, very special place in the history of our organization, in the history of boxing especially. So from now he has to concentrate, because the important part comes. Getting ready for the fight and really giving everything and making us proud once again. That he has never stopped doing. So for the greatest champion, our full support. We are always, as my father used to say, and we keep saying this, we are always in your corner. So the very best of luck. Thank you very much. And you're gonna win. You're a champion. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Tom. It's amazing that they finally agreed on making the fight and showing it on HBO. So this had to happen because this is the fight that everybody wants to see, that everybody needs, that boxing needs. So thank you very much on behalf of the WBC and Mauricio Suleiman. Thank you.
Thank you, Pepe. As I mentioned, Triple G are very proud that he is a champion of the WBC. He's a champion of the WBA. I think he's the best representative for the sport of boxing, the best ambassador that a sport of boxing can have, bringing new fans in with every fight. Triple G embodies what the true meaning of sport is, and representing the biggest fight now in the sport of boxing. As Pepe said, he's always wanted the biggest challenge for his career. This is considered the biggest fight in the sport of boxing. This is considered the two best middleweights fighting against each other. And it doesn't get any bigger than that. It'll be in T-Mobile Arena in Las Vegas. It'll be on HBO pay-per-view. Gennady, he's a world ambassador, really, for the sport. Some of you might have known that he was invited by Hublot to be at the opening ceremonies in Moscow. He just came back last Saturday, actually Friday night, but I spoke to him on Saturday. If you saw a video where one of the astronauts on the International Space Station had a Triple G flag with him. I mean, there's things with his career that just doesn't happen to a boxer or a champion. And at this point, at this stage, he's the best pound-for-pound champion. So we want to thank our sponsors. Tecate is a big supporter of Triple G. Chivas, Hublot, who has brought out the 3rd edition of his Triple G watch, which will be available here shortly before the September fight. Brand Jordan is a big supporter of Triple G with their merchandise. Bijan, here locally on Rodeo Drive. So he's got tremendous support from his sponsors. We're all looking forward to this rematch against Canelo Alvarez, September 15th. And I want to introduce a longtime television partner who launched Gennady's career over here in the United States. It was with their platform that allowed Triple G to become one of the biggest stars in the sport of boxing, to become involved in the biggest fight in the sport of boxing. So with that, I'd like to introduce Tony Walker from HBO Pay-Per-View.
Thanks, Tom. Thanks, everybody, for coming today. We're very appreciative of the fact that Triple G has spent his entire boxing career in the U.S. on HBO. For 45 years, we've prided ourselves on bringing the best fights, the best events, the biggest events in boxing to HBO. We started out with the Thrill in Manila, and now we get Canelo Triple G 2. Gennady has carved out a position in U.S. sports with his charisma. It's very, very seldom you see a foreign athlete carve out the position in America that he has as an individual, not even on a team sport. So for all of the fans who are not already getting ready to watch this show, we're going to produce a bunch of video pieces to highlight the run-up to this fight and show how, when you guys cover it, you're going to be able to report something special to your customers. I got to thank Tom and Eric and the fighters for putting this together, because even when we want to put the biggest events on in boxing, it doesn't always happen. So kudos to those guys. It's going to be a great night, a very memorable night, and we're very glad to broadcast the show. Thank you.
Thanks, Tony. We'll be announcing details. This is all just very fresh. As I said, we just agreed on the fight last Wednesday. So when the tickets go on sale, the ticket scaling, the HBO information, the undercard fights, all those details we'll be announcing here shortly. Triple G is going to be going up to training camp here in the next couple weeks with Dr. Abel Sanchez, the professor of pugilism. Whatever he does up there in Big Bear with all of his champions, Murat Gassiev, all the champions that he trains up there that punch so hard, and Triple G is really the leader of the camp up there. I'd like to introduce Abel Sanchez to say a few words based on how he sees the preparation for this next fight and how he sees the next fight going on September 15th.
First of all, Doug, thank you very much to you and to Ring Magazine for this honor. This honor is 18 long years in not only in Kazakhstan but in Europe. 8 years with me of hard work trying to get to this point. It didn't happen overnight, but a very professional athlete, a guy that gives you everything so that the fans want to continue to see him on TV. He's going to be going to camp probably in the next, probably a little after the beginning of the month. We're going to start preparing as we did for the first one, the fight on May the 5th. This will be a little more of a grudge thing, I believe, on our part because of, it's like that bride that got stood up at the altar. May the 5th we're looking forward to that and looking forward to destroying them and getting the next one if it was going to be a next one. But mark my words, he's going to be very dedicated like he always is, but I think that on my end, I need to make sure that he understands all the issues that have been put in front of him, not by his choice, but issues that have been put in front of him by Canelo, and Canelo's going to pay for this. Thank you.
As Abel alluded to, I would say the gloves are off for this promotion here. There was a lot of respect between the two guys in the first fight. Very controversial decision. Gennady thought it was a disrespect to the sport of boxing. Some that we all thought won the fight to come away with a controversial draw like that. Then with the rematch happening, everyone knows the scenario there that Canelo had such a positive. He got suspended. The Cinco de Mayo match in Las Vegas was canceled strictly because of the suspension of Canelo Alvarez. We scrambled, we saved the date, Cinco de Mayo, against Vanes Martirosyan at the StubHub Center. We broke the ticket revenue record at the StubHub Center. We broke the merchandise record at the StubHub Center. We set the highest ratings on any premium cable show for the last 2 years. With Triple G's last fight, and that's why he took the position that he did in the negotiations. He gave me clear instructions as to what he would accept. He would have signed a long time ago, and then finally, when he was satisfied with the deal, that's when we signed. We agreed last Wednesday. So with that, we can open up to some questions. This is a little bit of informal. Media lunch. Gennady, if you want to say a few words first before we take the questions, and then just if you're looking forward to this rematch and looking forward to the biggest participating now in the biggest fight in the sport of boxing.
Good afternoon, everybody. Just first of all, thanks, Doug, for your present, beautiful present. Finally, another one on the bag. And of course, everybody. It's good to see you. Right now, I feel my true life. I come back, for real life, a real boxing life. Thank you. If you have questions, I'm ready.
We can pass around. Why don't we pass around one of these microphones? That way, everyone can hear. Where's that, Alan? Alan, why don't you? Here.
Yeah. Gennady, last time we saw you at the Palm was about 3 weeks before May 5th. How much happier are you today than you were when we saw you a couple months ago with everything going on and everything that has taken place?
I don't know how many %, just a lot.
That was,
Tom.
that was the media lunch that we had to announce, no announcement.
Exactly.
There's nothing to announce.
Tom, over here. What was the deal changer last week to make this fight happen? It was off the table at noon, that was the deadline. What changed? What basically changed? If you can tell us.
Well, as I mentioned, there wasn't much of a deal changer. It was, Gennady was very clear what he would be satisfied with. He had made the concession to come off of a 50-50 split, which he thought was fair. Actually, we all thought was fair. He's the champion. He's the one that most people thought won the first fight. He's the one that didn't test positive, so he felt it's even, 50-50 split. Then he said, okay, for Canelo's ego and for negotiations, he would give him the extra 5%, and the deal was dead. We had a deal in place. I have to give Billy Joe Saunders and Frank Warren credit. They had agreed to terms to fight August 25 over here in Los Angeles. Everything was set with the form, with HBO, with all the sanctioning bodies that Triple G could have fought another undefeated champion, added another title, the one title that was eluding him for so long that we tried to make the fight with, and Eric said he was going to go in the direction because we couldn't come to the agreement. They were going to go in the direction of Danny Jacobs. About an hour later, he called back, had one last proposal which satisfied what Gennady wanted, and that's why we're here. So, look, Canelo Alvarez is not going to lose money on this fight. This will probably be his biggest payday. So whoever, whatever conjectures there are with splits and things like that, Canelo will most likely make the biggest payday of his career. He did make it in the last fight against Triple G. So Triple G brings a lot of value and the titles with him to this boxing match, and this is the fight that the fans have want to see, that the media wants to see, and internationally this really surpasses the championship boxing match. This becomes an international sporting event. It'll be shown in over 150 countries worldwide, and we projected to do much higher numbers than the first fight, and set the record for the biggest pay-per-view for this year.
From my understanding, were they the ones who called you back? You didn't call them back?
No, they were the ones that, they imposed this deadline, which, I never am a believer of deadlines, and I'm not really a big believer in negotiating in the media, but, I was on the phone trying to come up with a solution with Eric before their 12 o'clock deadline. We couldn't come up with a solution, and then that's when we said, okay, we'll just go different ways, and, maybe in the future that we could do this. And then that's when I think they realized, look, they can't let this opportunity go by. You never know when you have a big fight like this. You never know if Canelo fights somebody else, if Triple G fights someone else. You never know if someone gets injured. You never know what happens, and if a fight can be put back together sometime down the road. So we're happy that we were able to work out the deal with Canelo and Golden Boy, and here we are. Lance, did you have a question?
I got one.
Oh, Robert.
For Gennady. Gennady, based on everything that has happened since the first fight, how much respect have you lost for Canelo?
I don't know how much. It's a lot.
Okay.
Like I said, how much? I don't know about it. I know he walks on the road. He's a different guy right now. He's a completely different guy. He's not sportsman. Right now it's a different situation. 100%.
Gennady, what was it like for you when Tom says, this is what they want, this is their final offer, and at some point Tom said that the deal was dead? How did you feel about sticking to your guns and getting the figure you wanted? What was that hour like when you thought maybe the fight is dead, but I need to get paid what I need to get paid?
It's maybe somebody to drop me. Да, просто. Мое требование было 50 на 50 сначала, потом я поднялся 45 на 65. Я просто в связи с тем, что все произошло, просто они больше растут, и они
в своем решении подтвердили, что именно стоит эта сделка, что это действительно настоящая сделка, и она стоит именно столько.
My original demand was 50-50, but then I agreed to do it 45 because this is exactly how I thought how much they're worth, and they just confirmed that this is exactly how much they're worth, and therefore that's how we're moving along with that.
Они не знали это, они подтвердили.
And they knew that, and they have confirmed that that's exactly how much they're worth.
Lance, understand that amongst the team, we had probably 4 or 5 meetings, and in every meeting, Gennady was adamant. Gennady was in Russia. What happens, happens. This is what's going to be. If it's not, we have another fight. He wasn't good to answer your question. He wasn't concerned that last hour. It is what it is. We're going to go fight somebody else.
Esta pregunta es por favor para Abel, y si puedes pasársela también para que nos responda y haga la traducción en español. Finalmente ustedes fueron realmente herméticos, aguantaron y finalmente dan ustedes a conocer el valor que tiene Triple G. ¿Cómo fue que toman esa decisión? Porque me parece que fue la más difícil, el sentar, dejar bien sentado el valor que tiene Triple G hoy en el mercado. Es la pregunta para los dos, para Triple G y para ti.
¿En inglés o en español?
Para ti en español y si me ayudas con Triple G.
Okay. Bueno, primero él, como dije hace ratito, nosotros como equipo tuvimos como 5 juntas. En las 5 juntas él nos dijo que lo que quería, le dijo a Tom lo que quería y no cambió, ni una de las veces cambió. Se fue a Rusia a hacer en la Copa y él estaba allá y lo que pasara, pero él dijo que quería esa cifra. Si no era, íbamos a pelear contra Saunders. No se iba a mover para ningún lado y él se iba a quedar ahí. ¿Por qué? Porque es hombre de carácter, dijo lo que quiere y es lo que va a hacer, si no, que se muevan ellos.
Pero me queda claro que ustedes dejaron también claro el valor que tiene el peleador, Triple G.
Obviamente sí, exigiendo el porcentaje que exigió, quiere decir que él piensa que es lo que vale.
Por favor, para Triple G, si me ayudas.
You standing your ground with the negotiations, is that shows them what you feel that your value is to not only to this fight but in this sport.
Ну, это действительно же замечательная сделка. Это большие деньги.
It is truly an excellent deal, and there's a lot of money at stake.
И мы оба понимаем то, что мы в отличной позиции находимся, и мы не собираемся терять эти позиции.
And we both understand that we are currently in a great position, and we're not going to lose those positions.
И они правильно меня поняли, что я не собираюсь отстаивать, то есть уходить вниз, и тем самым у них также большой риск потерять свою отличную сделку, свою позицию.
And they have understood me correctly that I'm not going to go down in this deal, and they knew that they will have a good deal either way.
Это говорит только о том, что они правильно осознают эту позицию, и мы правильно осознаем, и это будет получиться.
And it only says that they understand their position, and this position is favorable to them as well.
Gracias. Thank you.
Hi, Gennady. Now after all that's gone through, like 12 rounds of Canelo and the positive drug test and everything, when you see his face and hear his name, what are your thoughts about him as a person?
I'm thinking about как бы я ничего не думаю о нем как человеке.
I don't think anything about him as a human being. I'm not really concerned about him as a human being.
Я надеюсь, что он все-таки будет 15 сентября на бою.
I just hope that he will be there on September 15th to fight.
But is there a greater sense for you to want to put some punishment on him after all he's put you through?
Нет, я же меня всегда мотивирован, я же чемпион, ничего не мотивирует. Его должен мотивировать, он должен вернуться назад, оправдать свои потерянные позиции.
I'm always motivated. I'm the champion. It is him who has to be motivated because he needs to prove himself.
Tom, throughout your relationship that you built with Golden Boy and the negotiations that you had before, in your historical experience in dealing with it, at any point, did you have any doubt that this was going to be something that was going to happen?
You know, Muhammad, I always thought the fight was going to happen. I thought it was too big not to happen. Although when it came down to the last 2 days, like I said, Gennady, out of principle, like he said, this is a big revenue fight for both fighters, but it's not about that. It's about proving who's the best in the sport of boxing. It just happens to also be the biggest fight in the sport of boxing. But this is out of respect that Gennady demands as a champion, that he expects. We made a lot of concessions for the first fight. We made a lot of concessions for the rematch. When Canelo got suspended, he stood his ground out of principle. He said, either we'll go with this fight or we'll go the other direction with Saunders. And he had no problem. He thinks that fighting another undefeated champion was on a sporting level just as high as fighting Canelo Alvarez. It just wasn't the same profile, it wasn't the same revenue, but he wasn't focused on the revenue. It was all about the principle and about the respect for him as a champion. And he got the deal that he said from the beginning, and here we are now, September 15th.
Gennady, obviously when we went to go see you in Big Bear, you talked about the injection marks and stuff that you saw on Canelo's body. Today you mentioned, you don't think he's a sportsman. Was there any reluctance on your part to give somebody like that a chance to fight for the middleweight championship?
Ну все, что, во-первых, все, что я говорил, это и доказала комиссия, то, что он не пошел по лекарству.
First of all, everything I said, the commission has already proved that he failed the drug test.
Да, и ссылаясь на комиссию, раз комиссия допускает нас боксировать в сентябре, я же всегда говорю, я собираюсь боксировать, я хочу боксировать, и мне без разницы, принимает он допинг-тест или не принимает.
Therefore, if commission allows us to fight, I will fight. I don't really care about anything. I just want to fight, and I will fight either way.
Okay, and just one more, just as a point of clarification, you said initially, obviously, that you asked 50-50. So you said you kind of knew that it was going to come down a little bit from there, or was that a difficult process at all, kind of backing off the 50-50 thing?
Я ничего не знал.
I didn't know anything.
Я просто сказал, ладно, мне 45 устроит, но это будет последняя цена.
All I said is, all right, I'm going to agree to 45%, but this is going to be my last percentage.
Я не говорил об этом, я много не говорил, много не думал. Я сказал 50/50, второй раз сказал 45, это последняя цена решения. Что действительно этот бой состоится в 45%, и все.
I didn't think about this too much. First time I said 50-50, second time I thought, okay, 45-55, that's fine, it's going to be my last statement.
Бой будет 45.
Thank you.
Tom, this is for you, Gennady. You were at Estadio Azteca in Mexico City, October, November, for the Patriots game. To hear thousands and thousands and thousands of fans cheering your name, you see Mexicans, Americans wearing Triple G shirts, Golovkin shirts, hats. Just what does it say to the fact that you've now crossed over into the fan base where Canelo is from in Mexico?
You know, Francisco, this goes back to him just being a great ambassador, a world ambassador for the sport of boxing. Whether he's in the Azteca Stadium in Mexico City in front of 80,000, 90,000 fans, chanting his name when he comes on as one of the Mexican heroes on the middle of the field because of the donation he made for the earthquake relief fund with Carlos Slim. You know, whether he's in Mexico City, whether we went to the WBC convention in China, he was just at the World Cup in Moscow, wherever he goes, when he sold out the O2 Arena in 11 minutes in London. He's a hero in Monaco. He fought there 3 times. Wherever he goes internationally, his brand is at the highest level and growing. And that's one thing I'll say that the fights with Canelo Alvarez has done, especially here in the U.S., has raised his profile. I heard people, whether it's at the gym, on the street, just talking about Triple G Canelo, and not knowing that I was associated with Triple G. And this is the fight this is one of those rare fights that crosses over, not just for the hardcore boxing fans, the casual boxing fans. This crosses over to fans who aren't to people who aren't even a fan of the sport of boxing. They'll come to watch the fight because their friends are watching the fight. This has that snowball effect that will create more fans for the sport of boxing. And since the first fight with Canelo Alvarez, you know, his brand is sky high, and internationally, he's one of the most recognized sportsmen or athletes anywhere, you know, from any sport. So that's what I would say when you were asking about the question with Azteca Stadium. He has a great support from the Mexican fan base. They appreciate his style. They respect his character and the fact that he respects the sport of boxing and respects his opponents, the way he treats his opponents, the way he, his style in the ring to give them entertainment when they come and buy a ticket or buy the fight on pay-per-view. But it's like that really worldwide, you know, when it comes to the respect that he commands from the fans.
And then this question's for you, Gennady. With a roller coaster the last month, 6 weeks, did you deep down feel this fight's going to happen, will happen, eventually, if not the way it did in September, before September?
Yeah, I feel it's possible. This fight. Everybody very excited. Everybody wants that.
Gennady, when you countered with 45%, was there any doubt in your mind that they might not have taken the deal? And if they didn't take the deal, were you the one that wanted to fight Billy Joe Saunders?
Я не был не уверен ни в чем это было последнее. Если действительно хотят, чтобы бой был, это большая сделка, и то есть я готов на 45%. Это было последнее, что я сказал.
It wasn't about me being sure or not sure. It was just my last proposition, and if it's just take it or leave it, and that's it. Because I was the guy who wanted this fight the most. And if there wasn't any fight with Canelo, of course we would fight Billy Joe Saunders. We would try to make a fight with Billy Joe Saunders.
And real fast, when you heard Billy Joe Saunders hold the hamstring, possibly to fight your Canelo, what did you think? What were your thoughts on that?
Billy Joe Saunders травмировался.
Ничего не думал. Ничего не думал. И мы просто пытались бы сделать, если бы Канelo отказался, лучше Сандерса. Ничего не думал.
I didn't have any thoughts. I don't think about this, guys. If Canelo fight wouldn't happen, we would try to fight Billy Joe Saunders, and that's it.
Gennady, moving ahead to the rematch, what changes in your view in the rematch than last September tactically in terms of the pure fight?
This may be a better question to Abel. I'm ready right now, just I'm more excited. I really want this fight. I'm very hungry.
And Abel, could you, I know it was only a 2-round fight, but I know Gennady and you were very adamant that you wanted to go through, you did not want the long layoff. What was the importance you thought of that fight with Mark Roshan in terms of just keeping the rhythm in the sync?
Yeah, I think that had been in training camp for a while. You don't waste 5-6 weeks of training camp and wait another 3 months for another fight. I needed him to fight just to, first of all, take out some aggressions. 2, he wanted to fight for the fans. Really, the money was not the important thing. He wanted to put on a show for his fans. His fans were expecting a fight. He was very upset. First of all, he was very, very upset that it didn't happen in Vegas because there's a lot of people that bought tickets, not only from Kazakhstan, but all over the world. Bought tickets for flights, made reservations for hotels, bought tickets for the fight. So he wanted to make sure that he was out in front of his fans. As Tom just alluded to, all of the records that he set, fighting somebody that nobody wanted him to fight, yet the people just want to see him fight, so that's what he wanted to give him.
Gennady, I want to tip my hat to you. Lead off. Congratulations on winning this Ring Magazine pound for pound title. I spoke with you before about who was your idol. You mentioned Marvin Hagler. If he was in the room here today, what would you say to him?
Oh, this is a hard question. Probably I tell him, and now I have the same position like you, with Sugar and Leonard. Right now, как
бы сказать, как знаешь, сейчас мы можем повторить ту же историю, как бы вы. Yeah. We can repeat history, like your fight with Leonard. I'm very excited. And this story, seriously, this is definitely a story for me, maybe it's 100% for me and for my kids, because for my friends, everybody call me, said, oh, gee, this is story, this history.
Tom,
Thank you.
Tom, I don't know how much you're allowed to divulge, but if you could please, as much as you're allowed, just explain this Hail Mary that got this deal done at past the 11th hour.
It was past the 12th hour, Mike. It really, literally, there was no positioning, there was no more poker playing, it was dead. I thought when I hung up the phone with Eric that they were going to go, he said that they already had a deal done with Jacobs, which I've come to find out afterwards. Look, it gives Canelo Alvarez the opportunity to fight for his titles. If Canelo wins September 15th, then all of a sudden this title belt goes to him. Gennady's other title belts go to him. So, Canelo still has a big career in front of him. It's just Gennady stood on his principles, and at the end of the day, he got what he was looking for.
And a question for Abel. What are your thoughts about Canelo Alvarez after everything that's happened?
He was in my training camp probably about 6 years ago. He spent three different training camps in my camp. And as Gennady was just saying, he was a different kind of person. He was a very humble, very nice kid. It seems that today his riches have made him a different person. He's a very good fighter. He's an exceptional fighter. He's doing a lot for the boxing in Mexico. But as fast as he went up, they go back down. And all the people that you stepped on the way up, you're going to meet on the way down. So I think that his persona today is diva-like. Sometimes his actions, what he says and what he doesn't say and what he doesn't do, are hurting.
I know, of course, you and Nadia are very professional. We've had so many great rivalries over the years. There was genuine bad blood, like, Guerrero Morales comes to mind. So you see this even approaching that, where these guys really hate each other? Or
I don't think it's hate, but I don't think that it's out. Those rivalries were rivalries inside the ring, not outside the ring. So what he's doing, what Canelo's doing outside is hurting Canelo, not hurting Golovkin. But if this ends up being the kind of fight that we think it's going to be, then I think that could be a rivalry for the third one. And a fourth one. These two guys are not the kind of fighters like Vasquez and Marquez, where they beat each other up and they can't function the next fight. These two guys are exceptional boxers and good fighters, and it's not going to be that type of fight. So there will be a third and fourth, or there could be a third and fourth.
But it's safe to say, as Tom was alluding to earlier, that there's genuine bad blood and distaste. Maybe not hate, but distaste.
It's not hate. It's bad blood just because of what he's put us through. And yeah, there is some some wrongs that need to be righted, and they will be on the 15th.
Gennady, 118, 110 became very famous on Twitter. Adelaide Burke took a lot of heat. Do you think that you can get a fair shake? Do you feel like you have to go in there and knock him out? Same question also for Abel.
I don't even think about those things. I'm not pressured by any kind of factors. I don't really care about, what judges decided to do. This is not concerning me at all.
Правда такая система, правда такая вещь. То есть, кто может принимать, кто живет спокойно, а кто не может смириться с правдой, начинает суетиться.
Truth is such a thing that where you can take the truth, you can actually live with it. But those who cannot accept the truth, getting all anxious about it.
Я чувствую себя very comfortable.
And he's feeling himself very comfortable right now.
You guys, last fight, was preceded 3 weeks before by Mayweather McGregor, and I probably heard your pay-per-view, even though it was a very strong figure. This time, there's a lot of bad blood at play, animosity running very deep, but Canelo has only been seen basically with his Golden Boy promoters around him talking about the computerall results, and we really have not had any kind of access to him since how much are you guys concerned that he's not going to be a willing participant in promoting this fight, Gennady, like you do?
You know, Lance, just like we can't control, you know, where he's gonna train or how he's gonna fight in the ring is, you know, however they promote the fight on their side is up to them. You see Gennady here, sitting in front of everyone, very accessible to the media. I've talked to Abel already. We're gonna have, you know, open days in the training camp for the media. He's gonna come down here. He's gonna do other interviews, other appearances on television. So Gennady's gonna go through this promotion and this training camp just like it's another fight. Of course, it's a rematch with Canelo Alvarez, but he can't focus, or we can't focus as a team. What's Canelo gonna do? What Golden Boy's gonna do? We'll try to make the best out of the promotion that we can. Triple G is always, because he's the champion, he takes on the responsibility of taking the lead in the promotion, regardless of how the promotional structure is. That's his responsibility as champion, and frankly, that's one of the reasons why his star has risen so quickly from pretty much not being known here in America when he made his HBO in September 2012. Now it'll be exactly 6 years from his HBO debut. It'll be September 15th, 2018. And he is one of the biggest stars in the sport of boxing here, not only in the United States, but internationally. And that's the responsibility that he takes. And, you know, we'll do our part. You know, if Canelo locks himself in the training camp and focuses on the fight, you know, that's up to him if he wants to do it that way. But you see, Gennady's not hiding from anyone. A lot of times he's out of the country, and that's why we can't get access to him. But now that he's going to be here, you know, training him at Big Bear, we're going to do our job to promote this fight.
Gennady, what was your reaction when Canelo didn't want to face off with you this time around? Do you think it's going to hurt the promotion at all? Especially since the first presser, he did say that they didn't need trash talk to sell the fight, but now he doesn't even want to face off. What was your reaction?
I think he simply cannot look into my eyes. And that's all. Because he knows that I am correct in everything.
We're going to wrap it up here. If there's maybe one or two last questions, and then we're going to wrap it up. Genre?
Hi, Tom. Moving forward now, a similar type of question as you go about to promote this fight and do all the things on your end that you need to do. Does it give you any sense of dread for the things you have to come together with them to promote the fight that will be challenging or difficult, and from now to the finish line?
I think it's going to be very straightforward, just on a much bigger scale. You know, we've done co-promotions with Golden Boy before. We had a very successful promotion when they had the champion David Lemieux. When Gennady had his first unification bout, we sold out Madison Square Garden on HBO pay-per-view, and the promotion for the first fight last year was very successful. So we don't anticipate really anything different this time around, except for it's on a much larger scale. You see all the TV cameras here. We're really here for the Ring Magazine presentation of the pound for pound belt, and you have all these, all the cameras, all the media here to see Triple G, whether Canelo's sitting next to him or not. The interest of this fight seems just on a much higher scale, multiples than the first fight. And I think you'll see the reaction from the fans, and everyone's asking me when can they buy tickets, when can they, you know, should they buy their flights and hotel rooms, and the media requests already are going through the roof. So, and I think this time around, look, Triple G doesn't want to leave his faith in the hands of three individuals. That's what happened last time. We saw the result. The officials are going to be under a microscope this time. I think from both sides, but especially from the Triple G side, given some of the irregularities of the scoring for the first fight. And, you know, we'll hopefully, it won't go into the judges' hands. Triple G has had a knockout streak of 23 in a row recently, and he just started his second knockout streak, right, Abel? He has one knockout, and looks forward to this being a second knockout for the next streak, and then breaking the record at the same time. for what the great Bernard Hopkins had achieved.
How satisfying would a knockout be, Gennady?
There you go. So we'll wrap it up now.